Dravik was not an ordinary alien scientist. He was one of the best minds on the planet Yolkar. For many years, he studied creatures from other worlds. He believed science could unlock the secrets of life, but there was one rule he could never break: no live experiments with humans. The council had banned it long ago, calling humans unstable and dangerous, but Dravik didn't agree. He believed humans were the key to something bigger, something the galaxy had never seen before. One night, under a fake name and using illegal channels, Dravik paid smugglers to bring him a captured human. The smugglers delivered a young man named Jack. Unconscious, confused, and weak, he had been taken from Earth without warning. Dravik placed Jack inside a comfortable room on his lab ship. He didn't want to hurt him. He just wanted to observe. At first, Dravik only watched. Jack ate more food than any other species. He healed from cuts faster than expected. But the most strange thing happened when Dravik placed him near a female alien from the desert world of Kishara. She had always been cold and silent. But near Jack, she started smiling, speaking, and showing emotion. It confused Dravik deeply. He thought it was just a mistake, so he tried again. This time, he put Jack near a female from the water world of Glux. She was part amphibian, usually shy and nervous. But near Jack, she became protective, even aggressive. She stood between Jack and danger. Like a guardian. This is impossible, Dravik whispered to himself. No human should be able to affect alien biology this way. He ran more tests. He checked Jack's blood, his skin, his DNA. Everything was adaptable. It wasn't just strong. It was made to mix with other species. Human DNA wasn't just surviving, it was merging. That night, Dravik couldn't sleep. He stared at the stars outside his lab window. What if humans are not just different? He said quietly, what if they're designed for something greater? But something even more shocking happened. One of the alien females, Yalnis, started speaking in her sleep. She whispered Jack's name. She had never used human language before. When she woke up, her eyes were glowing. She looked at Dravik and said, "He made me feel alive." Dravik was scared now. He had broken the law. But he had also discovered something the galaxy had never seen before. He opened his private communicator and sent a message to a hidden contact, a secret group known as the Syndicate, made up of scientists from many species. His message was short. Subject: human male. Universal compatibility confirmed. The next morning, Jack woke up and tried to escape. He didn't trust the aliens, and he didn't know why the females kept following him. One of them gave him food. Another tried to hold his hand. Jack was confused, afraid, and angry. "Why am I here?" he shouted. Dravik tried to calm him. "You are not a prisoner, Jack," he said. "You are a miracle." But before Dravik could explain more, an alarm rang through the ship. Someone had discovered the illegal experiment. A warship from the Yolkarian Council was on its way. They were coming to destroy everything: Jack, the data, the lab, and even Dravik. Dravik panicked. He ran to Jack's room and opened the door. "You must come with me now," he said. "They'll kill us both." Jack didn't understand, but something inside him said to trust the strange alien. As they ran through the halls, the three female aliens followed them, refusing to stay behind. They love him, Dravik realized. They would die for him. As the ship shook from the first attack blast, Dravik and Jack entered a small escape pod. The alien females squeezed in behind them. The pod launched into space, flying away just before the lab exploded. Inside the pod, breathing hard, Jack looked at the three aliens sitting beside him. One of them touched his hand gently. Jack didn't know what was happening, but he could feel it too. Something strange. Something real. Something powerful. Dravik looked at him with wide eyes and said the words he would never forget. "Jack, I think you are the most fertile being in the galaxy." The escape pod drifted through the dark emptiness of space. Jack sat quietly, still shocked by what had happened. He had been taken from Earth, trapped in a lab, and now was running with strange alien women who looked at him like he was something special. He didn't feel special. He just felt tired, confused, and lost. Dravik stared at his tablet, watching the bio-readings of the 3 females sitting close to Jack. Their bodies had changed again. Hormone levels rising, cell structures shifting. Even their reproductive systems showing new signs. It was impossible to believe Jack wasn't doing anything. He was just breathing. Just existing. Yet their bodies responded as if he was meant to be near them. These changes should not happen. Dravik whispered. He tapped his screen again and again, trying to understand. Each of the 3 females, Yelna, Sari, and Vexa, were from different species. One desert-born, one water-dweller, and one from a cold, crystal-covered planet. They shouldn't be able to reproduce with humans, not even close, but their bodies were shifting to match Jack's DNA. Slowly, their genetics were merging. Yelna leaned toward Jack and smiled softly. "You make me feel safe," she said in broken English. Jack blinked. "How do you know my language?" She touched her chest and said, "You," then tapped her head, inside. Jack didn't understand fully, but it gave him chills. They landed on a small moon with an abandoned mining base. Dravik powered up the old systems and turned the place into a safe hideout. While he ran more tests, Jack tried to adjust. The 3 females followed him everywhere. Cooking alien meals, sitting close to him, touching his hand, his hair, his face. It was overwhelming. Jack had never seen this much attention before. Not even on Earth. At night, Jack sat outside the base. Looking at the stars, Yelna sat beside him, her eyes glowing under the moonlight. "Why are you all acting like this?" Jack asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "We feel something strong, deep, real. You change us inside the lab." Dravik discovered something terrifying and exciting. Jack's DNA didn't just adapt, it bonded. Where other species fought to keep their genes pure, Jack's genes welcomed them, mixed with them, and created new possibilities. Not just children, but entirely new species. Hybrids stronger, faster, and more advanced than anything seen before. Dravik stared at the results, his hands shaking. "This is no accident," he said. "This is evolution on a universal scale." He opened a private channel and contacted the syndicate again. "This human is the key," he said. "He can breed across species lines without rejection." But the syndicate didn't reply. They had gone silent. Jack began to feel strange too. Not sick, but different. Like his body was waking up to something new. His senses grew sharper. He started understanding alien languages without translation. He could feel emotions around him: fear, excitement, attraction, even pain. He didn't know how, but he knew something inside him was changing too. Dravik watched from afar. "He's evolving," he whispered. "He's becoming more than human." Then, one day, Jack found a hidden message on Dravik's console. It was from the Yulkarian Council. A bounty had been placed on Jack's head. "Too dangerous to exist," the message said. "Kill on sight." Jack confronted Dravik. "You lied to me," he said. Dravik didn't deny it. "I had to study you," he said. "You are the most important discovery in galactic history." Jack shook his head. "I'm not a science project." Dravik looked down and said, "You're not?" "Your hope." Later that night, while Jack was alone in the control room, Vexa entered quietly. She held a small device in her hand, glowing softly. "I used to be empty," she said, "alone. No purpose, no feelings, but now I feel full." Alive, she placed the device in his hand. It showed her genetic scan. Her body had created a fertilization pattern. "From you," she said. Jack's hands trembled. "Is this real?" She nodded. eyes shining like ice crystals. "I carry your future." Jack didn't sleep that night. He walked through the old hallways of the base, thinking deeply. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was becoming something else, something more. And if others found out, the whole galaxy might come after him. Not to study him, but to control him or destroy him from the shadows. Dravik watched him and said, "The galaxy won't be ready for what comes next." The stars looked peaceful, but danger was close. Deep in the shadows of space, a council warship approached the moon where Jack was hiding. Its dark surface reflected no light, and it made no sound, but its mission was clear: find the human and erase him from existence. Dravik's fingers shook as he read the council's new message on his cracked screen. Subject confirmed, destruction ordered, 0 survivors. His heart pounded. He had known this day would come, but not so soon. Jack was inside the old mining base, teaching Yelna and Sari how to play a human card game. They laughed softly, their strange hands holding cards upside down. For a moment, it felt like a dream, like he was back on Earth, joking with friends. But that dream shattered when the alarm screamed, red lights blinked, sirens echoed through metal walls, and the air smelled of smoke. "They found us," Dravik gasped, bursting into the room. "You have to leave now." Jack jumped to his feet. "What do you mean leave? Where?" "Anywhere but here," Dravik said, pulling out a small device. He activated an emergency protocol, unlocking a hidden underground hangar. The council sent a destroyer. "If we stay, we die," as the group ran through the dusty corridors. Explosions began above them. Rocks and steel rained from the ceiling, and the ground shook like thunder. The old mining base was not made for war. It was falling apart. Vexa turned back and grabbed a small medical box. Sari picked up Jack's jacket and threw it at him. Yelna stayed close, holding his hand tightly. "We won't leave without you," she said, her voice strong. Down below, the secret hangar opened slowly. Inside sat a forgotten cargo ship, rusted and barely functional. Dravik slammed the controls, hoping it would still fly. "Get in," he shouted. Jack hesitated. He looked back one last time, watching the place that had become his strange new home crumble behind him. They launched. Just as the first missile struck the surface, the mining base exploded in a wave of fire and dust. The cargo ship rocked hard, alarms screaming, smoke rising from the back engines. Jack grabbed the controls and shouted, "Does this thing even fly?" "Barely," Dravik yelled back, "but it's all we've got." The council ship began pursuit, lasers firing, beams of energy slicing through space. Jack twisted the controls, dodging as best as he could. He had never flown a spaceship before. But something inside him guided his hands, like his instincts were changing, adapting. "Hold on," he shouted, spinning the ship through an asteroid belt. Rocks slammed against the hull, sparks flew, and the lights flickered. But somehow, they made it through. The council warship slowed down, unwilling to risk chasing them into the debris field. Inside the ship, silence returned. Everyone breathed heavily, skin damp, hearts racing. Jack sat down, trying to process everything. He had just escaped death. Again, but this time, it wasn't just luck, it was choice. Dravik turned to Jack and said, "You saved us. You flew like a Yulkar veteran." Jack shook his head. "I don't even know how I did it." "You're evolving," Dravik replied. "Every day, becoming something greater." They set course for a place known only in whispers, the Black Reach, a lawless zone where no council ships dared to go. There, they hoped to disappear, to hide and to plan. The ship was falling apart, but the group worked together to repair what they could. Jack fixed wires, Yelna sealed broken panels, Vexa calibrated the oxygen systems. It was quiet, focused work. But Jack could feel something growing between them all. Not just friendship. something deeper. That night, while everyone rested, Jack stood alone at the front of the ship. He stared into the stars, lost in thought. Sorry came to him, holding a blanket and 2 strange fruit drinks. "We don't understand your world," she said, "but we want to stay in yours." Jack looked at her, confused. "Why?" "Because when we are near you," she said, "we feel more than alive. We feel complete." Before Jack could respond, the ship's radar beeped. Dravik ran to the console and frowned. "Something's following us. What is it?" Jack asked. "Not council," Dravik said slowly. "Something worse." A pirate ship appeared on the radar, faster, deadlier, and known for selling living beings to the highest bidder. Jack's heart dropped. They were still in danger. And this time, it wasn't science or survival, it was slavery. He looked at the others and said, "We fight." Dravik looked surprised. "We can't fight. This ship isn't built for combat." Jack stared into the dark screen and said, "Then we make it fight. 'Cause I'm done running. Asterisk, the pirate." Ship drew closer, its metal skin covered in rust, scars, and stolen weapons. It was a monster made for hunting and capturing. Inside Jack's cargo ship, the mood was tense. Everyone waited in silence, listening to the quiet hum of broken systems and flickering lights. Dravik tapped on his control screen, trying to send a false signal. He hoped to trick the pirates into thinking the ship was already empty, but the pirate sensors were stronger than expected. "They've locked on," he said. "They know we're here." Jack stood beside the pilot's seat, his fists clenched. "We're not going with them," he said firmly. "We already escaped once. We'll do it again." The females stood behind Himyelna, sorry and Vex each, ready to defend him in their own way. Their feelings had changed from curiosity to loyalty. They didn't see Jack as just a human anymore. They saw him as something worth protecting. Before the pirates could board, the ship shook violently. A bright blue beam of light struck from above, cutting through the pirate vessel. The pirate ship began spinning, engines failing, alarms screaming. "Who was that?" Jack asked. Dravik's eyes widened. "It's them," he said, voice trembling. "The Syndicate." A new ship appeared, sleek, silent, and glowing with soft green lights. Its design was like nothing Jack had ever seen. Curved metal, transparent, wings, and no visible weapons. It hovered over them like a ghost from a dream. Then, a message came through. "This is the Syndicate. Lower your shields and prepare to board." Dravik didn't argue. He lowered the shields and opened the docking doors. The Syndicate had found them, and there was no escape this time. But Dravik didn't fear them. He had been waiting for this moment. Inside the Syndicate ship, Jack felt strange. The air was clean but heavy, like it carried thoughts and memories. Tall aliens with glowing robes and deep eyes walked beside him, never speaking, only watching. Dravik followed behind, his head bowed. The females stayed close to Jack, silent but alert. They entered a circular room with floating seats and pulsing light around the walls. A voice spoke not from a person, but from the air itself. "Jack of Earth, you have changed the rules," it said. "You are not just a man. You are a beginning." Jack stepped forward. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I didn't want to be anything." A figure appeared, tall being with soft silver skin and eyes that held centuries of knowledge. "I am Varn," it said, "one of the original founders of the Syndicate. We study life, not to control it, but to understand its next step." Varn walked around Jack slowly. "You are the first human to show this level of compatibility. Cross species, across biology, even across instinct. You make others evolve. By being near them, you change what they feel, what they think, and even what they dream." Jack looked down. "I just want to go home," he whispered. Varn stopped. "There is no going back," he said. "The galaxy knows about you now. The Council fears you. The pirates want to sell you. and we want to protect you. Sci stepped forward. Protect how? She asked. Varn looked at her kindly. We will give him safety, knowledge, and time in return. We study him with respect, Dravik interrupted. You won't lock him in a lab, right? Varn nodded. No cages, no lies, just truth. Jack looked around the room. All eyes were on him. Waiting? He had escaped death, survived attacks, and changed lives without meaning to. Now, he was being asked to trust again. After a long pause, he said, Fine, I'll stay, but only if they stay with me. He pointed to the three females who had never left his side. Svexa, Yelna, and Sari each smiled gently. Varn agreed. They are already part of your change. They are welcome here. In the days that followed, Jack lived among the syndicate. He learned things faster than expected. He began speaking in alien languages without learning them. His thoughts moved quicker, his body stronger. Even his emotions grew deeper. The scientists were amazed. Some believed he was the next stage of evolution, not just for humans, but for everyone. But one day, late at night, Dravik received a secret message. Encrypted and hidden deep in the system. He opened it, and his blood ran cold. The council had found them, and they were coming with a fleet. The message ended with 5 words. He must not survive this. The syndicate ship floated quietly in deep space, far from council routes. Hidden behind dark clouds of radiation and silence, Jack thought he was safe. He had started to trust again. Even smile. But danger never truly left. It only waited. Dravik stood alone in the data room, staring at the council's message over and over. They know where we are, he whispered. His fingers trembled as he turned off the screen. He didn't know how the council found them, but they were coming with weapons. Ships, and one goal. Jack had to die. Vexa noticed Dravik acting strange. He barely slept, barely ate. She asked him what was wrong, but he only said, too much thinking. She didn't believe him. Something was wrong. But while Vexa watched Dravik, no one was watching Sari. Sari had been quiet for days, moving in shadows, her eyes always on Jack. She smiled when he laughed, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. She remembered her planet once rich and beautiful, now broken by war, a war caused by change, by chaos, by unknowns. And now Jack was the biggest unknown of all that night. She walked alone into the core room of the syndicate ship. She placed her hand on the old interface and sent a short signal. It wasn't long or loud, just one word location. In her mind, she told herself she was saving the galaxy, that Jack's existence was too dangerous, that if he lived, everything would fall. The next morning, Jack trained with Vexa and Yelna in the virtual field. His reactions were faster than ever. He could predict movements, dodge attacks before they came. He was becoming something more than human, but he still laughed, still joked, still felt like Jack. Later that day, Vexa finally told him, I think Dravik is hiding something. Jack frowned. I'll talk to him, but before he could, alarms rang through the ship. Red lights blinked again. And the voice of the ship AI said, unknown vessels approaching fast council ships 5. No, 10. All armed, panic spread quickly. The syndicate scrambled to raise shields and prepare for defense. Varn appeared beside Jack and said, this wasn't supposed to happen. Someone gave them our location. Jack looked around the room, eyes scanning faces. Then he saw Sari. Standing still, face pale, hands shaking. He didn't need to ask. He already knew. You called them. He said quietly. Sari's lips trembled. I had to. You don't understand. Yelna stepped between them, eyes burning with anger. He trusted you. Sari backed away, tears in her eyes. You're changing everything, she whispered. Species are bonding across worlds. Old rules are breaking. Wars could start, Jack interrupted. Or peace could start, before they could say more. The ship shook violently. The Council had fired the first shot. Outside, space lit up with beams and blasts. Inside, the Syndicate ship creaked and trembled. Varn turned to Jack. "We can't hold them off. You must leave now." Jack shook his head. "I'm not running again," but Dravik stepped forward with a plan. "There's an old escape path through the gravity tunnel. It leads to a rebel colony far from here." Jack looked at him. "You knew they were coming, didn't you?" Dravik lowered his eyes. "Yes," he said, "but I stayed because I believe in you." Jack took a deep breath. He looked at Vexa, Yelna, and even Sari, who now cried silently in the corner. "We go together," he said. "No more cages, no more hiding. If I'm meant to change the galaxy, then I'll do it my way." With heavy hearts, they moved toward the escape ship. Outside, Syndicate fighters tried to block the Council, but were being destroyed one by one. Jack's small team reached the hangar just as another explosion rocked the ship. Sari suddenly ran to them. "I'm sorry," she said. "Let me make it right." She turned and sealed the hangar doors behind them, locking herself on the other side. "Go," she said through the glass. "I'll stall them." Yelna banged on the window. "Don't do this," but Sari only smiled with tears. "This is the only way I can fix what I broke." She turned and disappeared into the smoke as Council soldiers entered the ship. The escape vessel launched seconds later, flying into the black tunnel at full speed. Jack sat silently in the pilot's seat, the others behind him, broken but alive. Dravik placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "The rebels will help us," he said. Jack didn't reply. He stared ahead, his eyes hard. He wasn't just running now. He was preparing. The galaxy had declared war on him. Now he would give them a reason to remember why they feared him. The escape ship came out of the gravity tunnel. Flying into a quiet corner of the galaxy, stars blinked in the dark like tiny lanterns. And a blue planet appeared below a rebel colony hidden from the Council. Jack looked down through the glass, his hands tight on the controls. This was where they had to go next, not to hide, but to decide. The colony was built inside a canyon on the desert planet of Havlar. Strange towers made from broken ships, alien tents, and glowing tech filled the place. Hundreds of species walked the narrow paths, outcasts, war survivors, scientists, and dreamers. They lived without fear of the Council. Here, freedom had a price. But it was real. The rebels greeted Jack with curiosity. They had heard of him. Even this far from everything, the human seed, they called him. Some whispered it like a gift, others like a warning. Vexa, Yelna, and Dravik followed him as he met the rebel leaders in a stone hall. Old machines hummed in the walls, and strange lights floated in the air. A tall alien named Kovar spoke first. "You are not what we expected," he said. Jack looked at him, calm but tired. "I didn't expect any of this either." Kovar walked around him. "They say you can unite species, that you carry something inside you no one else has." Jack didn't answer. Kovar continued. "The Council fears you, the Syndicate protected you, and now you're here. But what do you want?" Jack looked at Vexa. Then Yelna, then Dravik. He remembered running, fighting, bleeding, and losing. Then he looked back at Kovar. "I want to stop running," he said. "I want to choose my own future." Later that night, the rebels held a gathering. Fires lit the canyon walls, and music from different worlds filled the air. Jack sat on a high ledge, watching them dance, laugh, and live. He wondered if peace was even possible. He wondered if he was meant to be more than just a tool. Dravik sat beside him, silent for a while. Then he said, "I studied you because I thought you were important to science." Jack nodded slowly. "And now?" Dravik looked at the stars. "Now I think you're important to everyone below." Kovar and the rebels started forming plans. They believed Jack could help them create something new. Not just win battles, but unite species through shared bloodlines and deeper understanding. They dreamed of a future where council fear no longer controlled them, a future built not with weapons, but with connection. But the choice wasn't simple. If Jack stayed, he would always be in danger. If he helped the rebels, he would become a symbol. And symbols were always hunted. The next morning, Yelna found Jack sitting near the edge of the canyon. She sat next to him. Placing a warm drink in his hands, "You're quiet," she said. Jack gave a tired smile. "I've been given a future I never asked for." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "We didn't ask to feel the way we feel either." He looked at her. "Do you regret it?" She shook her head slowly. "No, it hurts sometimes, but it feels true." Then Vexa joined them, her eyes glowing soft blue. "We've all changed because of you, but maybe you've changed too." Jack thought about that. He didn't feel like the same man who had woken up in a lab cell weeks ago. He wasn't just reacting anymore. He was choosing. Later that day, the rebel leaders held a meeting in the central tower. They asked Jack to speak. He stood before them. His voice calm but strong. "I didn't want to be part of your fight," he said. "I didn't ask for this gift, or curse, or whatever you call it. But I've seen what the council does to people who are different. I've seen how fear spreads, how walls are built, and how love is crushed." He paused. Looking at the mix of faces before him, "I can't promise I'll lead you to victory," he said. "But if there's a chance we can build something better, something where people don't have to hide who they are, then I'll help." The room was silent for a long moment. Then Kovar nodded. "Then we begin, outside." The colony prepared, not for war but for something much harder. Peace. Plans were drawn. Messages were sent to hidden allies across the stars. A new movement was born, not to destroy the council, but to outgrow it, and at its center stood a man who never asked to be special, but who chose to be, anyway, as the sun set behind the canyon walls. Jack stood with Vexa and Yelna at his side. Dravik handed him a small badge with a symbol of a seed blooming into stars. "What's this?" Jack asked. Dravik smiled. "Your new beginning." The rebel colony had changed. Once silent and hidden, it now echoed with voices from many worlds. Tents became homes. Broken ships turned into schools. And old enemies sat together planning the future. At the heart of it all stood Jack, the human, who was never meant to matter, but who now mattered more than anyone. Years passed, slowly, but not quietly. Jack stayed on Havlar, guiding, teaching, and protecting. He became a symbol not of power, but of hope, species that once feared each other began to bond. Families formed where none had been possible before. New children were born hybrids with glowing eyes and stronger minds. They called themselves the Unity Generation. Dravik led the research. He wrote hundreds of reports, but stopped calling Jack a subject. Now, he called him the Bridge. The first, he said, but not the last. Vexa and Yelna stayed by Jack's side. Their love was not forced, it was deep. Patient and real, they raised children together. Children who carried pieces of every world inside them, and the galaxy began to take notice. Some welcomed this change. Old rebel systems started opening their doors. Join the Unity Pact. They said, build something new. But others, especially the Council, refused. They called it unnatural, dangerous, even cursed. They sent spies, then assassins, then fleets. Each time, they failed. Because the galaxy had already changed, the Syndicate returned, not as secret watchers, but as open allies. They helped build learning centers, peace hubs, and universal clinics. Places where no species was rejected, where Jack's story was told not as a weapon, but as a beginning, one day. In a massive gathering under the twin suns of Havalor, the leaders of over 50 species came together. They stood on stone platforms carved with symbols of stars, seeds, and unity. Jack stepped forward. Wearing simple robes, holding no weapon, children stood behind him, some with tails, some with wings, some glowing, all born from connection, not control. Jack raised his hand and said, "Once, the galaxy ran on fear. Species stayed apart, afraid of mixing, afraid of losing control. But I've seen something different when we come together. We don't lose ourselves, we become more. Stronger, wiser, fuller." He looked around the silent crowd. "I am not a god," he said. "I'm just a man who survived long enough to find a better way. And I believe we all can." The gathering ended in cheers. Flags were raised with a new symbol, two hands holding a glowing star between them. The Unity Pact was born that day, not as a government, but as a promise. A promise to grow, to learn, and to love beyond borders. Back at the old lab ship, now turned into a museum. Dravik stood in front of Jack's first room. He gave tours to young students. "This is where it all began," he said. "One scared human, 3 alien women, and a scientist who broke the rules." The children laughed, wide-eyed and amazed. "Is it true?" One asked that he could make anyone fall in love. Dravik chuckled. "No," he replied, "but he made everyone feel something, and that was enough." Meanwhile, the council was falling apart. Planets left its control one by one. Their fleets grew quiet. Their orders ignored. They had built walls to keep out change, but the change came anyway. Jack's story spread through every system, not because it was forced, but because it was needed. He wasn't the strongest or the smartest, but he had shown everyone something simple, that love, trust, and life itself didn't care about species, color, or language. It just needed space to grow. Years later, Jack stood once more on the canyon edge where he had made his choice. His children ran nearby, laughing with others from worlds across the stars. Vexa stood beside him, older, wiser, peaceful. He turned to her and said, "Do you think it'll last?" She looked at the children playing and smiled. "It already has," above them. Ships moved freely between planets. No inspections, no fear, just families traveling to meet others. A galaxy once divided was now learning how to live as one. In the center of the colony stood a stone monument. It showed a human hand holding 3 others, each alien, each unique, below it. A plaque read, "From one man's survival, 1,000 new lives were born, the seed of Unity Jack of Earth." And somewhere, far from Havilar, in the deep silence of space, new stars were being born, each one lighting the way for those who would come next, carrying a story that would never be forgotten. Asterisk.